Disney is creative with magic, especially if it is used by a teenager. When it comes to magic schoolgirls, these two take the cake. Anne Boonchuy, defender of Earth and Amphibia. And Luce Nosta, the human witch prodigy. Which teenager has the best magic? We'll see when we find out who survives in the arena of death. Let's start with the oldest first. Anne was just a typical 13-year-old girl, who's friends with some not-so-average teens. One day, on her birthday, she finds the music box she had a glimpse of in her studies, and found a way to escape her reality. With one swift open of the box, she and some friends were sent to Wardwood, where she's adopted by the Planters, who may or may not be decadents of leaf. With the little violent sister Polly, the ever-cautious elder Hopia, and the adventurous scamp Sprig, Anne learns how to survive in this absolutely dangerous world, turning her from a simple follower to a warrior. And what a warrior she became. She's fought through dozens of highly trained Toad soldiers and even battled Sasha, finally tired of the constant manipulations. And this buff teen could destroy a stone golem, while under intense gravity. She's also an experienced fighter, with Muay Thai, also known as the Art of Eight Limbs, as it uses stand-up striking along with various clinching techniques. But her most common fighting method is with a sword. Trained by a con artist Nude, Tritonio Espada, Anne learned to master the ways of the blade, so much so she outmatched Sasha, twice. But if she wants to kick it up a notch, she can tap into the gems of the Calamity Box itself. She can zip across the verticality of Andrea's throne room without anyone noticing, summon her sword back to her side and throw it at blazing cutting speeds, and just by giving you a fist bump, she obliterates everything around her, including 6 Frobots. The 3 gems themselves are capable of powering a laser that disintegrated a mountain, and the teleportation move it did when Anne opened it created a shockwave that spanned across LA, which is worth 5.3 kilotons of TNT. However, this small amount of magic quickly tires Anne out, to the point of some of her body parts lose functionality for a while. Sure, she got better control over it, even prevent herself from passing out, but just barely. It's not enough to defeat Andrea's army, let alone the core in the form of Darcy, a hive mind of Amphibia's greatest minds in the body of Marcy. But even with the odds stacked against Anne, her friends were with her all the way. Anne can absorb the power of the gemstones and power up into her full Calamity form, which is pretty sick, not gonna lie. And in this form, Anne's own Calamity power is far more tense, allowing her reach escape velocity, and summon a giant tennis ball and racket to blast dozens of kitty beams to rain down on her enemies. But even with all that power, with her girlfriends at her side, and 30 Frobos as well as King Andrea's had a change of heart because of Leaf's letter, the core still outpowered them. Luckily, some old prophet Olm told her a secret last resort, asking the gems to gem her all their power. And with that, she was able to disintegrate the moon in an instant. At the cost of her life. But it didn't last long. Though, I'll give the god this, all it did was make an exact copy of this Anne, so in terms of writing, it's the best of both worlds. In spite of that, she knew that change is a good thing, and if she had her life ahead of her, she'd be more responsible, maybe even be worthy of God's replacement. So, God brings her back to life. This entire experience has changed Anne from a lazy pushover to next in line of God's power. If that doesn't show you not to underestimate Anne Boonchuy, then you'd better hop on to escape her wrath. Overall, while Anne is somewhat reckless, her wide variety of magic and forms make her a true force to be reckoned with. One magic girl to another, let's discuss Luce. Luce was the lucky human to enter the Boiling Isles. After having an overly creative disaster streak, her mother decides maybe summer camp would help her daughter control her uniqueness. But Luce ended up following a cute little owl into a portal, and now she can let her creativity fly in this strange new world. Oh, and a basilisk took her place in the human world, so no one would notice. Because despite not having a magic sac implanted in her heart like all witches do, she has access to magic by just using notepad and drawing circles. Her first spell might not seem the most impressive, but it truly is, and it's the light spell. Luce can conjure up balls of light that can move to the nearest constellation in mere seconds. But it's not as definitive as what Luce uses the spell for, blasting light to blind or even knock back foes. Now her second spell is ice. You'd think that means she can freeze her foes, but, since Luce is a lot more on the creative side, she uses it as a form of catapult, spike launcher, or barrier. Next is her plant spell. While it can be used to grow trees from your insides, Luce actually uses it like a rope. Genius. But she can use it to make the Thorn Vault. Although, yes, it was only used for sports, I can only imagine how much throbbing force is in this charging Thorn. Her fourth and final spell is a flame spell, which can melt gold bars, explode boulders, and launches foes far away. One example of this spell's power is when Gus used one of them to create a hole in forest thickened with vines. And she was able to tank her own spell within a caterpillar monster. She's a match for Lilith, EDA's sister, who was able to block Luce Light's spell. And as if it couldn't get better, Luce could increase the spell's power by just drawing a bigger glyph. Luce can also combine each spell for a unique, well, combination, like ice and fire to create a mist for the magic equivalent of a smoke bomb. With this tactic, she was able to morph a light spell into an invisibility spell, most likely by manipulating the light around Luce to seem like she disappears, for as long as she can hold her breath. Luce isn't just armed with spells, however. Given to her by EDA before a certain duel was a cape made out of witch's wool. This cape is capable of shielding Luce from powerful magic, otherwise, it's just for fashion. Which brings us to Luce's arsenal that a real witch can't be without. She carries a talisman that belongs to EDA, Albert. When EDA isn't using it, Luce can use Albert fly across the aisles at blistering speeds, and can use him as a club or bow staff. But it's far more than a tool. It is a living being, designed to be completely compatible with its master. And Albert is just Luce's temporary talisman, as she got to carve her own. Unfortunately, Luce is not one to get everything right. I mean, her greatest mistake shows she tends to bite off more than she can chew. Whatever the case, she may look like a foolish human girl, but Luce is far more creative, resourceful, and powerful than anybody takes her credit for. She was trained by the formerly most powerful witch of the Boiling Isles after all. Overall, Luce Nosta is a witch in training with a creative arsenal. However, she tends to not think things through. Abracadabra, Luce is gone. Both girls were skilled in combat, but Anne's greater stats overwhelmed Luce. They were both carrying a wide arsenal of magic and items, though Anne is the only one who could change her form in the first place. It also doesn't help that Anne's best spell was able to destroy the moon while Luce's could destroy a town at best. And yes, Anne using the secret spell does mean she'll die later, but she still would be able to finish Luce off before that could happen, and that would still be a victory. Looks like the little witch disappeared. The winner is Anne Bunchuya. In the red corner, representing a dog bone, I give you Team Paw Patrol. Featuring Chase, Marshall, Scott, Rebel, and one mystery fighter. And in the blue corner, representing Pizza, I give you Team Five Nights at Freddy's. Featuring Freddy Fazbear, Foxy the Pirate, Chica the Chicken, Bonnie the Bunny, and one mystery fighter. The Five Nights at Freddy's vs Paw Patrol Total War is coming soon to Death Arena. Stay tuned.